friends, and welcome back. My name is Callie Bransford if you are new here, and in today's video I want to talk about life, because life can sometimes be complicated. It can be busy and messy and exhausting and frustrating, and in the past few years I have found myself wanting to just simplify my life more and more. And while many of the complicated and messy parts of life cannot be avoided, I've also found there are a lot of things that I can do to keep things easier and simpler and less exhausting in life. And I wanted to share some of those with you today that I have discovered in case you also are looking for some easy ways to simplify your life. So let's do this. All right, number one, start doing one thing tonight that tomorrow you will thank you for. One of my favorite things that I have learned is to start doing something each day that tomorrow me is going to thank me for. This started about 4 or 5 years ago when I started doing my never go to bed with a dirty sink rule in my house. I started making sure that no matter how tired I was, I always made sure I cleaned my kitchen sink, because there is nothing worse than waking up in the morning to a dirty kitchen sink. And so it was this little thing that tomorrow me would thank me for, because it wouldn't have to wake up to a dirty sink. And the way that I adopted this was I would remind myself how much tomorrow Callie would appreciate the clean sink. And then every morning when I came downstairs, I would take a moment to appreciate the fact that the kitchen was tidy and how glad I was that I took a few minutes the night before to clean it up to make my morning easier. Heck yeah, it is nice and clean in here. Thanks yesterday, Callie. And I know it sounds like a sort of a silly concept, but it seriously works really well. I will just say to myself, think of how much tomorrow Callie will appreciate this, or think how much easier this is going to make things for you tomorrow if you do this right now. So a few other examples are like putting up clothes for my outfit for the next day, putting away a load of laundry really quick, running out the trash to the trash can outside. Another way that I use this is even to do something in the morning that afternoon Callie will thank me for. I've started getting really good about emptying my dishwasher in the morning, because we run our dishwasher every night, and I used to wait until the next night after dinner to unload it because I had to do dishes from the dinner that night. And it was such an extra hassle and so much more work when I was already exhausted at the end of the day. And then of course the dishes were also always piled higher because I had not put them in the dishwasher all day long. So now I've started emptying the dishwasher before lunch. Then I can just load dishes into the dishwasher throughout the day, and when dinner comes, dishes are so much more minimal and easier and quicker. Okay, my next way to simplify is to unplug. And I know this seems really like just such a basic overused phrase, but truly unplugging can really help simplify your life. We are bombarded with so much information and news and photos and other people's lives all of the time that we don't always stop to think about how much it's impacting our lives and our mental, emotional health. We could be in like the perfect, most content mood and then scroll through Instagram and find ourselves feeling inferior. We could be having a really fine, nice, great day and then watch the news and suddenly feel triggered. I'm not saying to do away with your devices, but just instead to consider trying to lower your use on a daily basis. I personally have done this, and I have an entire video all about how to use your phone less. It has some tips on how to stop picking up your phone so much, which is just going to allow you to be a little less plugged into everything all the time, to allow you to slow down and simplify. And going off the topic of unplugging, I'm also a big advocate for unfollowing. Unfollow accounts on social media. So often we're following accounts we started following like years ago, maybe somebody we met one time at an event, or somebody that we like started following and we're not even sure why. Whatever the case, I make a conscious effort to check in with who I follow like once a month. If there's someone in your feed who makes you feel bad about yourself, makes you feel jealousy or guilt or shame or annoyed or less than, or just like any bad feeling, just unfollow them. There's no reason to have these people in your feed interrupting your life and your thoughts, so just click the unfollow button. And my little trick is if there's someone whose posts bring you down, but you don't want to unfollow them because maybe you know them in real life or whatever, so you can actually mute accounts. This means you still follow them, but their content won't show up in your feed. And on that note, a little trick to bring more like positivity and happiness to your social media feed, because I actually get questions about this every single Monday on Instagram. If you don't follow me, I share posts that I love from the week before, and I always will get a couple messages from people saying like, where do you find these like great, happy, uplifting kind of posts, and like where do you find these accounts? I feel like I'm not following these types of people. So my trick is, one, obviously unfollow accounts that don't make you feel good, but two, any accounts that make you feel really great or that you love seeing their stuff, is to interact with them. So to always like those posts, save those posts, comment on those posts. That'll tell Instagram, hey, this person likes this type of content, and then you're gonna get that type of content more. So that's another, just a little added trick in there. All right, next up, say no to things that aren't who you really are. Listen, there is a lot of value in saying yes, don't get me wrong, but there's also value in saying no too. And I think very often we want to be yes people because we tend to naturally be people pleasers as human beings. We want other people to like us, we want to fit in, we want to be valued. And this leads us to being yes people. And often being a yes person can also lead you to being less of who you really are and more of who you think other people want you to be. It has taken me quite a little while in my life to truly learn the lesson that not everyone's gonna like me, and that's okay. And honestly, once you really get that message and you truly believe it, it is so freeing. I used to put a lot of effort into trying to please every single person and make sure every single person was gonna like me, and that left me saying yes way more than I needed to, and yes to things that weren't really me. And at the end of the day, still there were people who didn't like me and there was nothing I could do about it. Okay, so sort of an example of what I mean to contextualize this is I one time was at a networking event making some small talk, which on a side note, I hate small talk. Anyone else? It's just not for me. Anyways, I was in a group making small talk and somehow the topic of camping came up and everyone was sort of talking about camping and wilderness and everyone seemed to be talking about how they really love camping and being outdoorsy. And finally I was just like, yeah, I don't really like to camp. Like I like to be outside, but I don't need to sleep on the ground. And then like one by one, the other people were like, yeah, I don't like it either. And it was just really funny because this group of people literally were all just kind of pretending to give off the impression they liked to camp because they just assumed everyone else around them in this little circle thought camping was really cool and impressive. But in reality, we all preferred sleeping on beds to sleeping with mosquitoes. Either way, it helps to simplify your life because you are not trying to be somebody you're not. You're literally just being true to who you are. I feel like this is turning into some sort of like motivational pep talk, but that's not what it is. Just that life is simpler when you're not trying to pretend who you're not, you know? All right, next tip is to organize and minimize your closet. Now I talk about this a lot in my Declutter Your Closet video, which I will link down below for you, but I have found my life to be considerably easier since I minimized and streamlined my closet. Not only is getting dressed way faster and easier, but I have way less laundry to do. Now I find it is very common for our closets to end up reflecting not really what we do every day. We end up with way more of one kind or another of clothing that we don't really need. So an example is we have like 10 formal dresses, a handful of nice going out outfits, like 8 different fancy high-heeled shoes, but we really only attend nice events like a couple times a year. I would bet that most of us only actually wear 20% of our wardrobe 80% of the time. So instead the goal is to match up those numbers. You want 80% of your wardrobe to be what you wear 80% of the time. It does take a little bit of work. Like I said, I have that video down below, it's gonna help, but you will find that this makes your life so much easier. It is so much easier to get dressed. It's so much simpler just to open your closet and have things that you wear every day. You don't have to think about it, and less laundry. Always a plus. While we're on the topic of streamlining your closet, let's also just declutter other aspects of our life as well. This is going to make huge waves to making your life feel more simple. Extra stuff often feels really overwhelming and heavy, so ridding yourself of extra things you do not need is really freeing. And even if you pick just 1 or 2 things to declutter, it's gonna make a huge difference. Now I'll link my entire decluttering secrets video down below, but my best tip to declutter is that I always suggest picking just like 1 thing a week to declutter. That doesn't need to be this huge thing. You don't need to be decluttering your entire attic every single week. Just choose 1 thing to do each week. Do the junk drawer this week, do the office shelf next. Just get in the habit of constantly decluttering stuff from your life that you don't need, and you're gonna find that not having all of this extra stuff around is just going to make you feel like a weight has sort of been lifted off of you and just make life feel a little bit easier. Okay, my next trick is to try waking up 15 minutes earlier. The old wake up earlier line. You knew it was coming. It's been in motivational speeches and how-to guides for years, and you wanna know why? Because it works. That's why. That's why people always talk about it. Now, most of us set our alarms to wake up right when we need to. It gives us just enough time to do what we need to do. Maybe you leave for work at 7, so you get up at 6:15. It's just enough time to get dressed to get out the door. Maybe you have kids and you just let them be your alarm. Or maybe you work from home and so you set your alarm 10 minutes before you need to log in to do work. Just enough time to brush your teeth and maybe grab a coffee if you're lucky. Now, why do we do this? Because we value sleep. Sleep is amazing and wonderful and we all need it. And 99% of people don't hear their alarm in the morning and wake up feeling like instantly awake and jump out of bed and they're like, let's just tackle the day. Our alarm goes off, it wakes us from a deep sleep and we still feel tired and we're like, no, I'm not gonna do this, give me 15 more minutes. I think it's a really common misconception that morning people literally just like jump out of bed. I am a morning person. 5:30 is the normal time for me to get up in the morning, but I don't just like spring out of bed. I'm very often just as tired as everyone else when my alarm goes off, but from years of being a morning person, I've learned the benefit of waking up just a little bit earlier. I find that mornings typically set our tone for the entire day. So by waking up with just enough time, we don't even get a second to check in, look at our to-do list, make a to-do list, have a quiet moment. We're just immediately thrown into rushing through our day. So instead, if you give yourself just a little extra time in the morning, set your alarm 15 minutes earlier, it's going to give you just a couple minutes to sort of check in, set the tone for the day, and you will find your days go a lot better. My next tip is to slow down and start enjoying being at home more. I feel like with our constant access to social media and our little windows into everyone's life, our generation has this like growing fear of missing out, like FOMO, you know? We all have this feeling that we need to be in constant states of motion, we need to go out, we need to hit up the new restaurant, we need to take day trips, we need to constantly be traveling, and overall we just gotta like be busy all the time. This bombardment of other people's lives in our social media, their constant travels, adventures, nights out, and so on makes us feel like our own life is inferior if we're not doing the same. So it gives us this impression we're not like living up to the most that we could live in our lives. It's this feeling that drives us all to want to pack every minute of every day. And listen, I'm all for like living life to the fullest. You get one life to do everything you're gonna do, right? But does that mean that enjoying simple moments means you're lacking living life to the fullest? Does it mean that opting to stay in on a Saturday night and play board games instead of trying out some swanky new restaurant means you're missing out on life? Are you selling yourself short if you spend your Sunday at home working on a DIY project that you've really been wanting to do instead of brunching with girlfriends followed by a trip to the beach followed by happy hour? In 2017, my husband and I decided to buckle down and pay off our debt, and over the next 12 months, we paid off nearly $70,000 in debt, and I'll link a blog post down below on how. But when we started looking at our budget to do this, we quickly realized how much money we spend every month and every year on being busy. And so we cut back. We swapped Thursday date night with Thursday date nights at home, where we'd cook like our own little meal and listen to music at home. We stopped impromptu trips to Target and Home Goods. We gave up weekend trips and we deserve it splurges. And subsequently, we started staying home a lot more. And after just a few short weeks of doing this, we really actually realized we liked it more than we liked being busy. And over the next few months, we grew to love being home more and more and more. And the more we stayed home, the more simple our lives started to feel. And we found a new joy in simple aspects of our time. We started going for long walks together. We started eating dinner at the table instead of watching a new TV show. We just slowed down. We talked more. When you're not always going, it gives you a chance to like decelerate. It takes less to be impressed, and you can find yourself appreciating little moments that you used to take for granted, or you just like didn't even give yourself time to enjoy because you were too busy being busy. You know what I mean? So just think about trying to stay home just a little bit more, swapping one thing you would usually do to keep yourself busy with something more simple, more at home, and you'll find that you're actually able to slow yourself down a little bit and appreciate those slow moments a little bit more. All right, next up, I think one of the easiest ways to simplify is to use to-do lists. They seem really simple and basic, but truthfully, they can help a lot. We all tend to have about 800 tabs open in our head at any given moment, and thinking about these things like work, our family, what's for dinner, home repairs, all of these looming tasks will make us feel really overwhelmed and unsure of where we're even going to start. It makes life feel complicated and hard to tackle. So I'm a big believer in the to-do list. Instead, take all those tabs, write down all of these tasks on a piece of paper. If it's a big task, write down all the small tasks that you'll need to complete it, or use an app. Right now, I'm very into the app Todoist. Just taking a few minutes to write down everything allows you to see it visually all at once instead of trying to organize it in your head. And once you have it down on paper, it's so much easier to then take your to-do list and prioritize it and start to schedule it out when you want to tackle what. It allows you to start to feel like you have more control over your list and situation, and it makes it feel a lot more manageable and attainable. All right, next up is to use routines. Human beings are creatures of habits. We have many habits that we formulated in our life that we almost don't even realize that we're doing them. I bet when you go to bed every night, your body just like autopilots to the bathroom because you're gonna brush your teeth and wash your face. You don't even really think about it. You're brushing your teeth before bed for every single day since like you were a kid. So your brain almost does it without you even thinking about it. Routines and habits can be really powerful this way, and they can also be powerful in negative and positive ways. So you want to use your routines and habits for good. You can get yourself into small routines of things that you want to complete daily so they start to happen more on autopilot. When these things start to happen naturally on their own, you no longer really need to think about them. You will just naturally do them. So habits and routines are going to give you a framework to just improving and simplifying your everyday life. Now, talking about how to set up good routines and habits is definitely an entire video in itself. There are entire books dedicated to this stuff, and 2 books that I highly suggest if you want to start using habits to your advantage a little bit more is The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg and Atomic Habits by James Clear. But in general, think about a few tasks that if you completed every day would make your life easier. For example, we talked about earlier putting out tomorrow's clothing the night before, or always cleaning the kitchen before bed so your morning starts easier. Here's an example I recently started to use myself. I'm not alone that 2020 has left me with like way more online purchases than usual because quarantining means that you're not going out to stores as much. And this of course has left me with a lot more boxes from online shopping. I have found that these boxes would pile up at corners of my home. They would make it feel cluttered, definitely not more simplified. So I've started creating the habit that when I bring a new box in, I open it as soon as I have a free minute. And then I've layered the additional habit on top of it that when I open the box, I remove the contents, put them where they belong, and break down the box. Then I take that broken down box, I put it in the trunk of my car instead of leaving it there to hang out for a few more days before I think about recycling. And the reason I put it in my trunk is because then once my trunk is full of cardboard, I'm basically forced to make a stop at the dump to drop it off. As opposed to if I put it like in my basement, I could forget about it for weeks or months. Now I've created this as a habit so much so that when I open a new package, I almost immediately start to break down the box and take it out to my trunk without even thinking about it. And it has helped me get control of the package problem in my house. All right, my friends, that does it. Those are my 10 things that you can do to make your life just a little more simple, a little bit easier. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you took at least one takeaway from it to make your life a little bit easier and a little more simple. As always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will see you all in my next video.